Hello, good morning, Ibadan. Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to another fresh edition of Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. I am Samson Balogun.
I am Abby Dickinson. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak Live, your favorite breakfast show on television. Hello, Samson.
Yeah, good to have you.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You're looking sharp, ready for the day.
Not bad. You are not bad too. You
Oh,
really
I don't have a choice. I'm
morning.
trying to match your energy.
You look really good this morning.
Thank you so much. I appreciate. So what are we talking about today?
Honestly, we'll be talking about an issue that has been stirring reactions across the country, and that's exactly talking about JAMB this morning. There has been a lot of back and forth as regards JAMB, and then talking about what people have to say, what has happened in the last few days, and or let me say in the last 1 week, and how unhappy most Nigerians are about the situation as we speak. Don't forget, JAMB, they started writing their exams, and then children have had to suffer, a lot when it comes to, moving from one location to the
Exactly. I
other.
mean, everybody is talking about it, parents, students, even school owners,
School owners too.
from scheduling of exams as early as 6:30
6:30
a.m.,
Wow.
to technical glitches that has delayed start times or that delayed start times for others. It's really terrible. I mean, I don't understand. And, looking at the insecurity issues around the country now, I mean, we've heard of children being killed. There was this girl they didn't find. I think she was on a phone call with her sister where she was traveling to do this
she said
exam.
she was scared.
And before you know, when they found her, it was her body. She was killed.
Now,
but why?
See, we have to ask a very big question. Are we setting up our students to succeed or to fail, or we are stacking the odds against them? So this is a very big question. And then to say that in recent years, it has not been all perfect for JAMB too. There has been a lot of questions people are asking, especially from the part of the students and school owners. You want to talk about compromise of CBT centers. I think that's on the part of JAMB, saying some centers are compromised. And then you want to talk about impersonation on the part of the students, paying someone to sit for the exam on their behalf. I think that's one area JAMB has
I
been
thought we had
working on.
gone past those days, I thought they had been able to checkmate that part of people sitting for others.
Well, I
during
think
the
that
exam.
was why, CBT centers were created and, going totally technological as regards, examination in Nigeria. But I don't think it has fully worked, judging by the fact that some people have still found their way, to actually get behind and get across these things, find a way to bypass, the standing rules. And it has always been the case in Nigeria. Once there's a rule, someone somewhere is already thinking of how to, just find their way around it.
Just because of the massive number of candidates, they had to introduce, a lot of other centers across, thousands of centers across the country. So I was just thinking, to myself that, is it that the candidates are too much? Should that be a restriction on the number of candidates to sit for JAMB every year so that at least maybe people can quickly apply? I don't know what you think, because if you look at this, the CBT centers, they have different timings,
Yes.
From as early as, is it 6:30? Maybe it runs, starts by 7 to 9. 9, you have another set. 10, you have another set. 12, like that.
Being honest, I think putting a benchmark on the number of candidates to write JAMB on a yearly basis, I think that is going to lead to disenfranchisement. You are going to disenfranchise some students from writing JAMB, and you delay them. They were probably, the set you are trying to, block from writing this year might just be the best part of, people who will sit for the exam. So it means that there is always a way to go around this. If Nigerians can vote, I mean, if we can all vote one day, means that they can write JAMB in one day and we will not have issues.
Thank you for saying that, because during our time, that was how we did JAMB. It was a day, and I remember it was a Saturday.
And everyone had
at the same time, it's all gone. I mean, it wasn't CBT, then
it was pen and
normal
paper
and all,
stuff,
exactly, and the OBJ,
just
exam, you just do that.
Exactly.
So I don't know, it's different now. I mean, change is constant,
well,
but
change is...
for an institution like JAMB, one won't expect something like this. But then I just look at it, okay, maybe it's the Nigerian factor happening. I mean, things can change, you know, things can be one kind sometimes,
well,
but
I want to
JAMB has been there for a long time now.
Yeah.
They should be able to do whatever it is to assuage situations like this.
Well, I want to lean a little bit towards you know, your observation, but to say that this is going on to JAMB, a body that has been around for a long time.
Very long time.
I think that has a lot to do with the Nigerian factor, as you said. Some of our MDAs, parastatals, institutions, they have not been really able to evolve as time passes by. So it means that there are a lot of things that has to change. There are a lot of things that has to be put into consideration, and that has to do with how do we, you know, merge technology with our existing institutions. How do we put them together to make them work? Don't forget, even as we use CBT centers for JAMB now, some students still complain about system crashes during examination. They complain about poor connectivity during exams, meaning that the internet service providers might just not be the best. The one they have selected might just not be the best on the day of the examination, meaning it's going to affect the student. I've heard of a student who failed an exam because while writing the exam, the internet just went off like that, and then the portal closes, and you can only open that portal once. Once you have submitted, and that's it. So unfortunately, she failed. Meaning that that's not even a fault. That's the fault of the internet, you know, adopted by, you know, CBT center owners. And these are things they should look at. What is the best internet service provider for this particular center? You don't just say, oh, because I use this, then the students have to use this particular internet service provider to write their exams. This is totally unacceptable, especially for students who are vying so hard, they have studied so hard, and then they want to pass this exam once and then go into the university, or maybe if they have not done so well, they might actually end up in a polytechnic. But that's still education. There's no difference. I feel like...
yes. I want to take you back. Why did you say that? If they have not done so well, they end up in polytechnic. Are you trying to say polytechnic is not good? No,
there's no difference. It's education. But the way it has been structured in Nigeria, they will say if you get so cut-off mark, you enter the university. If you get so cut-off mark, you get into the polytechnic.
But do you know that
we used to have PCE, PolyJAMB. We used to have UTME, which is, you know, the JAMB per se. And then at the point it was brought together, just write your exam, your score determines where you go. I feel that is, for me, it's a little bit of an insult to polytechnic. Because
sometimes
there's
I don't
no
know why
difference.
they do that.
If you have an HND and someone that has BSc, I think you should be paid the same way. And even in some workplaces, they pay you differently. Thinking, oh, because you went to the polytechnic, you don't have so much experience. I mean, you do not know so much like the person that went to the university. But hey, you know intelligence does not stop there.
That's an interesting topic we should really look into, and maybe have
one
educational experience
to
somebody to really talk on that. Because yes, you know, there have been issues with polytechnic, university. No. Even when you see the ones who graduated from polytechnic, they still go back to university because of, you know,
they are not up to the,
they are being degraded, and the people are looking down that, you know. And I think there are some courses that are actually better in polytechnics, but I don't know, maybe education has changed now, because there are some courses then, you know, even for state universities, yes, but I know things have changed now. Exactly.
All right, so some other points we have to look at is failure to capture or verify biometric data properly. This has affected some of the students in writing their exams, and then posting them. Imagine someone living in Ibadan, posted to Kishi, posted to Igbo to write all in the name of writing JAMB. Why can't you give such a person a center within the Ibadan metropolis where you know she will get there?
Somewhere even close by. You know, I mean, do it like when we vote.
That's the point.
You go to somewhere at least close to your place. You don't have to start traveling all the way.
You have a polling unit where you vote at your convenient place, somewhere very close to your house. That's why you register your, you know, you do your voters registration somewhere close to where you live, or maybe somewhere around. But then you have to travel all the way. You are registering.
Except maybe you don't apply on time, because I think that affects too. If you don't apply on time, then the closest places are maybe occupied already. But I think they should really do a lot to look into.
The idea is let them, you know, register and then see where's the closest place. Even if the closest places are so close, it's not as bad as you thinking. You might as well spill the exam to the next day. if you think that's going to be the problem, because there's no point posting someone from here down to Kishi, down to Shaki, just to write an exam. So it's an idea that should really, be looked into.
It's really heartbreaking, especially for those who lost their lives in the course of writing JAMB. Well, for those watching, parents and students watching right now, we will say that preparation is very important, but advocating for your rights is key. It's still Daybreak Live on Dominion television, and up next will be the news, right?
Yeah, Daybreak News.
Okay, Daybreak News, and Sarah Wane is on standby. Don't forget, you can follow us on our social media platforms, talking about Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and the likes at Dominion Broadcast. And if it's on X,
that's Dominion Cast.
And the website is
dominion.org.ng, at dominion.org.ng. You can watch us live there, drop your comments, and be a part of the conversation. We'll be back after this time out.
Good morning. This is Daybreak News on Dominion Television. My name is Sarah Wane. The federal government has announced plans to commence the payment of the outstanding 5-month arrears of the 35,000 Naira wage award to federal government workers. This was disclosed in a statement from the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, noting that the arrangement has been concluded to settle the outstanding payments. The statement was signed by Bawa Mokwa, Director of Press and Public Relations at the OAGF. OAGF clarified that the first installment of the outstanding arrears will be disbursed immediately after the payment of April 2025 salaries. He explains that while workers will receive their normal salaries for April as scheduled, the separate payments for the wage award arrears would follow promptly. A fatal accident has claimed 2 lives just a few meters past Soka Junction along the Ibadan-Lagos Expressway. The incident occurred while a motorcycle attempting to make a U-turn onto the expressway behind a white truck was struck from behind by a black SUV. The impact forced the motorcycle into the truck ahead. Tragically, 2 of the 3 passengers on the motorcycle, a man and a woman, died on the spot. The third passenger suffered critical injuries with both legs and one eye severely damaged, but remained alive at the time of this report. The Federal Road Safety Corps quickly arrived at the scene and provided assistance to the surviving victim. The federal government has directed the West African Examination Council and the National Examination Council to adopt full computer-based testing for all their examination by 2026. The Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, disclosed this during the monitoring of the ongoing exams alongside JAMB officials in Buari. He revealed that both the WAEC and NECO would start administering their objective papers via CBT, effective this November. To him, the full adoption of CBT for the essay and objective component would commence by May or June 2026. Peter Nwachukwu, husband of the late popular gospel singer Osinachi, has been sentenced to death by hanging by the High Court sitting at Wuse Zone 2, Abuja. Passed the sentence on Peter Nwachukwu and sentenced him, having found him guilty of culpable homicide resulting in the death of his wife Osinachi on 8 April 2022. The judge, in her judgment, held that the prosecution has proven the burden of proof. In business, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso, has reiterated that the focus of the Apex Bank is to bring down the country's inflation to single digits in the medium term. He disclosed this at the conclusion of the 2025 International Monetary Fund and the World Bank Spring Meeting in Washington, D.C. last weekend. This comes as Cardoso admitted that inflation is the most disruptive force against Nigeria's welfare, emphasizing the urgency of tracking inflation to stabilize household incomes and improve the cost of living across the country. And talking sports, President Bola Tinubu has congratulated Remo Star for winning the 2024-2025 Nigeria Premier Football League title. Tinubu disclosed this in a statement released by the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, describing the historic event as a testament to the hard work, discipline, and unyielding spirit of the players, the coach, the crew, and the management. Remo Star won their first ever NPFL title following a hard-earned 1-0 victory over Niger Tornadoes in Ikenne yesterday. The Sky Blue Stars topped the standing with 68 points from 35 points, with 3 matches remaining before the end of the campaign. You can visit our website to listen to us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominion Cast. That's end the Daybreak News. My name is Sarah Wane.
All right, welcome back from that break. That was Daybreak News on Dominion Television. The show is still Daybreak Live, and you can watch us live on our YouTube channel and subscribe to that channel at Dominion Broadcast. You can also watch us live and be a part of the conversation on our website at dominion.org.ng, at dominion.org.ng. Do well to link up with us on all other social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. That takes us to the next segment on the show this morning, where we bring you the major stories on the pages of the newspaper. We now start with the Leadership newspaper this morning, and the major story on the Leadership says, Delta defections, Tinubu, APC firm grip on inherited PDP structure. That's on page 4. And the writers on this story says, grant waiver to defectors, say you are not tenants in APC. Shetima, Ganduje receive Sheriff Okowa, others into party. That's the former governor of Delta State and the incumbent governor of Delta State, others into the party. Defections exaggerated, won't deter coalition. That's coming from El Rufai this morning. And I think this has been a story that has not left the papers in the last few days.
The defection keeps coming up, and I mean, they're all proud of their defecting.
Well, the fact still remains that in Delta, if the politicians have defected, have the people defected? That's the question. Will they be able to convince the people to join them in the new party? Don't forget, you know, the South and the Southeast, they have always been pro, PDP in the last few years. Will the progressives be able to take hold of that particular part of the country? And then if they do, will they be able to get the amount of votes that comes out of that place? Don't forget, the PDP at the point got serious votes from the South and Southeast.
Exactly.
And then will the APC be able to do the same, having been able to convince some of them to join the political party? Well, let's keep our fingers crossed.
Exactly. All right, still from the Leadership newspaper, Discos must be accountable for 112 electricity deaths in 2024. This is coming from the CGN.
All right, I will take this one on the top left corner of the Leadership newspaper this morning. Court sentences Osinachi's husband to death by hanging. You'll find that story on page 19 of the Leadership newspaper this morning. I
don't know if I'll be right to say justice at last.
Well, you can say that, but my concern is that if the wife is dead, the husband is to be hanged. What happens to the children?
They become orphans.
They become orphans. I think, before we take some actions that will alter the course of, of our future, we need to think deeply before.
So do you think they would have granted him mercy?
No, I wasn't thinking about mercy. Okay. Whoever has actually done anything that deserves whatever it deserves should actually get what it deserves. I'm not, saying the law has not done the right thing. I'm just saying the decisions we make sometimes that will alter the course of one's future or the future of the children has to be thought about deeply.
Considered very well
has to be considered. Because right now, and I also say, I say to women too, the abuse is becoming too much, and it's eventually, you think it is eventually going to take a hold of your own life. I think the best thing is to just walk away than stay in there and then end up being,
That's when they say you have to leave in order to live.
That's the quote.
All right, still on the Leadership newspaper, gunmen killed 10 at Benue drinking joint. Wow, you can find this on page 19 of the Leadership newspaper.
That's another sad one coming
Very
from Benue State.
Still Benue.
Still Benue. It has been Benue Plateau in the last few months. All right, away from there, bandits abduct Kaduna District head's wife, daughter. You'll find that story on page 7. If the eyes are mighty are getting kidnapped at this time, what's the fate of the common man on the street? That's a very big question.
Okay, 37 blind candidate seats for JAMB in Bauchi State. This is on page 18 of the Leadership newspaper, and you can also find 2027 INEC asks NAS to expedite action on legal framework. This story is on page 4 of the New Telegraph. The Leadership newspaper.
The Leadership. All right, and on page 7 of the Leadership newspaper, you have this story, a follow-up of what we read yesterday on one of the papers. Poverty worsened under you in Anambra, Sanwo-Olu blast Obi. So
you see, so it's Anambra.
Yes.
It wasn't like a general poverty.
Not a general poverty.
Oh, wow. So we're liking Anambra now to total. But is that a good comparison? talking about Anambra and talking about Nigeria.
Well, if you want to talk about, you know, I've always talked about this about politicians. You know, instead of coming to the office and say you have a 15-point agenda, 13-point agenda, I think if you have 3 solid agendas that will leave a legacy for you, you have a lasting effect on the people, why not go for the 3 instead of having so much and delivering so little? So, the analyst yesterday actually mentioned, Raphael Ogedon mentioned that in terms of security, he thinks Peter Obi did well in Anambra State. Yes, we can give that to him. But in the other areas, how well did they fare? So these are questions you will continue to ask the leaders. You have to be accountable for your actions. And then if you have actually been to an office and you want to seek re-election into another office or a different one entirely, you have to answer questions about your past office. That tells the people how accountable you are to them and how well you have done in the last one. Probably after you left the office, you know, it's a lot easier to see how well a striker could have scored a goal when you're on the sidelines. And then as a leader, most times when you are done with your you know, duty as an elected official, and then you realize, oh, I could have done this
better or done this like
will
this.
Will the people entrust you with another position
True.
based on your regrets? I don't think so. So away from there, we'll take another story this morning. And then 2027, INEC asks NAS to expedite action on legal framework. That's on page 4 of the Leadership newspaper. All
right, just before we leave the Leadership newspaper, bandits adopt Kaduna district head's wife and daughter.
All right, away from the Leadership newspaper this morning, we now head straight to the Nigerian Tribune, and still on the top left corner, Osinachi court sentences husband to death by hanging. I think it was reported to same place on the Leadership newspaper, somewhere very conspicuous for you to see.
Okay, the major stories on the papers today is still talking about the defections, where we cannot face Tinubu in 2027 to work against him. This is coming from the Delta State governor, and you can find the story on page 15, with Ryder saying, explains why Delta cannot remain in opposition for almost 10 years. Mass defections of Delta PDP to APC, a political tsunami, says Tinubu. I am not bothered by defection of governors to APC, says El Rufai. Wow, political tsunami. That's a new one.
All right, away from there, FIRS orders banks to close unauthorized tax collection accounts. That's on page 6 of the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, World Bank on the bottom part of the page, that's the Nigerian Tribune. World Bank water projects fail in Nigeria as scarcity lingers.
Okay, when you talk about projects like this in a country like Nigeria, you want to talk about supervision. If you're having a project in Nigeria, who are supervising this project? And to what extent did they fulfill the promises made to you when you are giving these projects out? I think in a place like Nigeria, especially in Africa, when these kind of projects are being done, I could remember there are so many other projects like that financed and headed by the World Bank, just like the channeling of, you know, the rivers in, I think one is in Ibadan, the Ogunpa River, which is also one of them. These are questions. There are successful projects and there are ones that you begin to ask questions. What exactly is wrong with these projects? Who is in charge? And then, is anyone asking questions? Then, if we cannot face it head on and ask the right questions, I think we'll continue to get it wrong in a country like this.
Exactly, just like you said, who is in charge? Who is supervising? Because for a big project like this to just fail, according to them, scarcity lingers. Well, we'll look more into the story. I'm sure we'll get more facts about it. Okay. All right, still on the Nigerian Tribune, Naira redesign. Court strikes out 1 billion Naira suit against Buhari, Emefiele, and the CBN. This is coming from the Nigerian Tribune. You can find that story on page 28.
Okay, let's take this one. That has a lot to do with JAMB this morning. UTME. No rescheduling of exams for candidates. That's coming from JAMB. Arrest over 40 candidates for impersonation. You'll find that story on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune, and that takes us to the questions we asked earlier. You know, just by a little mistake that could have been avoided by the actual schedule itself, and then a student failed to meet up with the exam, could not write the exam, and there's no rescheduling, meaning such students will have to wait.
No, I think the rescheduling, I saw, sorry, I think there's rescheduling for, you know, where they had technical issues, glitches. But for latecomers and absentees, and there will be no rescheduling. So I think when we read the body of that story is there, because
We'll
I saw that for latecomers and absentees, no rescheduling, but for those where they suffered, the centers where they suffered, you know, technical glitches, and they really, yes.
All right, you can get a copy of the Nigerian Tribune. The story is on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune this month. That takes us to This Day newspaper. And then on the upper third of This Day newspaper, Fagbemi, why Nigerian judges must be conversant with new electricity law. Kekere Ekun decries death linked to power sector. You find that story on This Day newspaper.
I'm still taking this story of the defections, but in different ways. They're putting different papers, carrying it in different ways. This is a movement, not defection. Okowa says, we moved to APC for good Delta.
For good of Delta.
Good of Delta, exactly. Tinubu to defectors, you are co-owners of APC, not party's guest. Ganduje, Uzodinma, Otu, Nwoko, Kayamo, others welcome new members. Wow, interesting, I must say.
All right, and then you will find a picture on This Day newspaper. Says Delta as APC's new beautiful bride. It is there. And also Okowa Sheriff Oborevwori waving APC flag. You will find the pictures there. It is all clear there for you to see.
This is where they say, let me use our, they'll say, Opo.
Okay, away from there, we'll take this story. Lamido, Odinkalu, Akinola, Jinodu, others warn against coercive defections. Lukman, our coalition is to ensure Tinubu does not return. Okay, so we see what happens when the election finally comes. Don't forget, it is still the era of permutations and combinations, who joins which party and then when.
Exactly.
So, well, we'll see what happens at the end of the day.
And you know, El-Rufai is saying defections or not, it doesn't stop coalition.
It doesn't stop coalition. Well, okay. Then you ask questions. If these people in the PDP, especially governors, are moving to the APC, then who exactly does El-Rufai have in mind to join him to form that big force he's expecting to form against the sitting government in Nigeria? And then, well, as a strategist, political strategist, you know, you must have had your groundwork done. You must have a framework and you have a blueprint. So if you have all that in place and you are still confident that even with all the governors you are gathering, we'll still have something in mind, well, we'll see.
You know they have plans.
Always have a plan.
All right, I think from here we'll move over to the Guardian newspapers. Yeah. Okay, 51 varsities ordered embroiled in illegal deductions from student loans.
Wow. Okay, extra charges institutions make on each NALFund applicant.
Applicant.
You'll find there. It is all there. You'll find the charts and how much it costs for each one. Away from there, we take this one. Alleged $1 billion fraud. Suspected CBEX promoter surrenders to AFCC. You'll find that story on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Also coming from the Guardian newspaper on page 29, Ohaneze urges Tinubu to accept peace move by pro-Biafra agitators.
Okay, we take this one on Jamb. Peter Obi bicker over early exam schedules. You'll find that story on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Okay, still on the Guardian newspaper, INEC 2027 INEC 6 law to strip president of power to appoint Rex. Okay, you can find the story on page 3.
So who appoints Rex?
Different things happening.
If the INEC chairman does, who appoints the INEC chairman?
Exactly my
These
point.
These are questions. So
we'll see how it unfolds. All right, Custom receives 6 cargo scanners, target 67 in 20 years. All right, this is the business part of the Guardian newspaper.
And then we'll take this one. Court orders Aisha Achimogo to honor EFCC's invitation. You'll find that story on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. I think she had a party, spent lavishly on the party, and then there's an EFCC investigation. Then eventually she was linked to a Ponzi scheme of sort, and then she's been invited by the EFCC. The EFCC.
Okay.
All right, we'll take this one too. El-Rufai, Lukman maintain opposition as APC receives Okowa, Sheriff Oborevwori, and in the APC. That story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper.
And I think finally for the Guardian here is still the same story of the gospel, the husband of the lead gospel singer sentenced to death by hanging. Okay.
All right, away from there, we'll go straight to the Blueprint newspaper this morning. And on the upper third of the Blueprint newspaper, there's a story credited to the CJN. Nigeria's judiciary will uphold principle of fairness, inclusivity. That story.
Okay, so you know, you know this headline. Okay, let me read it. I'm enjoying this newspaper, the way they are putting these defections in different ways, forms. You know, you know, not the same. So now for the blueprint says, you know, Tinubu to Oborowere and Okowa, it says, welcome to APC, not as defectors, but architects of better Nigeria. You know, the other one say you're not tenants, you're members, you're not this, you're this, you're co-owners of this. So, you know, they're all putting it in different ways, making it look very flamboyant or, you know, really fantastic. So, with you have some writers here which says Deltans want to get connected to Abuja, show Tinubu love. Governor to links defection to APC-led government government's performance.
Okay.
Wow.
I think it's an era of who gets the best headlines. There's always a different way to coin
you know, they're just coining it
and
in different ways.
These headlines this morning, they have really been interesting because reported differently, same story.
Same story, but
you know, catchy headlines that would, you know, more or less we'll call it in
not making it too hard, you know, everybody's defecting.
It's a clickbait.
We're family members, they're just defecting, we're not strangers. Look at this one now saying Deltans want to get connected to Abuja. Show Tinubu love.
They want to show love. Let's see what happens after showing the president's love.
Then
before showing the president love, what exactly is happening to the Deltans.
Okay.
And then, well, Deltans also have a mind of their own. If their leaders are choosing for them, I know they also know what's going on in the country, what has happened in the past, and then they know exactly what they want for the future. So away from there, we'll take another story this morning. Uphold equity, transparency, FG charges RMAFC. That story is on the Blueprint newspaper this morning.
Okay, also on the Blueprint newspaper for 2027, INEC seeks voting rights for inmates and Nigerians in diaspora. Early voting for security operatives, orders on election duty.
Okay, we'll take this one.
I think that's, if it works, it's a good one. So
it's a good one. I mean, everyone gets to vote.
I think those in diaspora have actually been advocating for something like this, you know.
And then the idea that once you're on duty, since you are not in your, you know, most of the police officers, NSCD officers, they have probably been transferred, maybe someone who registered in Ondo transferred to Ibadan to come and work on election day. And then what exactly happens to such person? I think the system should be networked in such a way that as long as you can provide your voter's card, you can vote anywhere. That should make it a lot easier for everyone. Since it's on the internet, and then you can show that, okay, I have a voter's card. I think there's an idea too that even without your permanent voter's card, you should be able to vote. There's a movement for such, and I feel like INEC should work on something like that too. As long as they can prove that I am the one who has that particular card, even if I don't have it, I should be able to vote. They have the roster, the register, and they know exactly who's on the register and who's not. So if there's no duplication, which I feel they have been able to do for people who register once or twice, thrice, they have been able to strike out, you know, those people, I think totally, or they left one registration. So if that is done, if you are able to verify that this is the person in the register, why not let the person vote? At least you can confirm that with the thumbprint.
And then with inmates as well, you know, the prisoners.
They are Nigerians too.
But how sure, with all these, do you think it will still not be compromised?
Well, I think that's what I always say about supervision and people having a mind of their own. You know, if anyone comes here to help them compromise an event or something that, you know, needs to be done, I think the first thing that comes to your mind is, who are you serving? The person or the country? You know, for the betterment of the country, you're also going to have children, or maybe you already have children. You are going to leave a legacy for your children, and your contribution to the country is part of the legacy you are leaving for them. So it means that if you join hands to destroy a country like Nigeria, your children are still coming to live in the same country you destroyed. And that time you will not be there again to save them. because being there as a parent is a lot different from when you have children and you are no longer there. So automatically, that whatever you are doing today, you know you are laying a foundation for your generation, more generations to come. And not even your own children alone. Your children's children will also come and say, look, this is a country our great-grandfather lived in, our great-grandmother lived in. So your decision now affects the future. So take the best decision and then let's move on.
But it sounds like easier said than done.
Well, we have always advocated for that. I think once we begin to say it over and over again.
I don't know, it just looks like sometimes once you join politics or you're politicians, your conscience is gone.
People always say that.
Like
I don't think it should be like that. I don't think it should be like that.
It shouldn't.
And people tend to say politicians. They were Nigerians before they became politicians.
Exactly.
They were from a family and then they lived in a particular neighborhood before they became whatever it is they become today. Meaning that there is still someone somewhere who has the link to call this person to order and say, look, people are not happy with what you are doing. But then family members too have stopped telling, people the truth. Meaning that, oh, the little he drops for the family,
exactly.
The day you start criticizing him,
now, you won't get that
So
again.
for them to maintain that cordial relationship, they stop talking. And then that attitude of sycophancy starts. They start telling you, oh, you are doing really well. People are saying you are the best. Whereas you are not doing anything. It is when you come back for the election, you will know that you have not done anything.
Again, I will say, I didn't talk before this one, you didn't whine.
All right, okay. From there this morning, we'll take these short headlines. Conclave to begin election of next Pope May 7. That's credited to the Vatican. Right. Also, the NOA commits to national unity, civic responsibility. It's on page 9 of the Blueprint newspaper. And then
this interesting one about Sterling Bank introducing free rides for Nigerians.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Well, if that can actually, no matter how little it is, we call it a community social responsibility. Someone somewhere has to take responsibility of some things.
Free rides, but from where to where? Anyway, we'll look into that story and know
area,
what's
in the community they are doing that.
Okay.
And that should happen where they need it more.
Exactly.
All right, away from there, we go to the New Telegraph this morning, and we'll take this story. Shetima to Governor Sheriff Oborevwori, Okowa. You are co-owners, not tenants in APC, page 3 and 6 of the New Telegraph this morning. And then, tsunami swept opposition, Tinubu. Defections can't influence 2027 poll, says El Rufai, same as reported on other papers this morning, just with different headlines. But then, it is still a major story making waves. Okay,
so this one on the bottom part of right-hand corner, it says, killings, headers targeting Christians, Benue. In Benue, Christians in Benue, says ex-Khan chairman. You can find the story on page 3, 4, 5, 6, and 28. Samson, please take the riders.
All right. Well, it's not that clear.
Yeah,
we just have to leave the riders like that. It is so little there. Okay. And then we'll take another story this morning. Nigeria earned $1.791 billion from non-oil exports in Q1 of 2025. That's on page 7 of the New Telegraph. You have the picture of the coordinating minister of the economy, Wale Edo, there this morning. Still on the same paper, the New Telegraph, CJN, Kekere Ekun, bemoans incessant deaths in power sector. You find that story on page 5 of the New Telegraph this morning. All right, there's this same story about the Naira redesign hardship, where it says court strikes out 1 billion Naira suit against Buhari and Emefiele, including CBN. You can find this on page 2 of the New Telegraph. And then you have this headline, Trump's 100 days in office akin to 100 years. That's coming from OPS, says global trade marred by controversies. You'll find that story on page 2 of the New Telegraph this morning. And then for entertainment, Davido, Thames, Rema, Zeri deal win big at the Headies. You'll find this on page 5. Congratulations to our wonderful Nigerians doing us proud. All right, away from there, trade war. Russia facilitates export expansion into Nigeria. You'll find that story on the New Telegraph this morning. Okay, still talking about outside the country, blackout. Spain declares state of emergency as Portugal struggles with transport chaos. This you can find on page 4 of the New Telegraph. All right, we take this one last one on the New Telegraph this morning. FIRS to banks, close all unauthorized tax collection accounts immediately. That story is on page 7 of the New Telegraph, and that takes us to the Point newspaper this morning. Still talking about defections, Shettima to Oberowori, Okowa, others. You are co-owners of APC, fellow architects of Better Nigeria. This is a movement, not defection, says Oberowori. We must connect to Abuja to gain more democratic dividends. That's coming from Okowa this morning. That story is credited to the Point newspaper, and then you find it there.
Okay, still on the Point newspaper, price of 50 kg rice drops to 58,000 naira in Nigeria. Nigerian stock markets steady as all share index rises by 0.34% on Monday. So yesterday I was talking about this rice issue. Now I don't know that the 58,000 is something to be joyful about, but I got an information, and I actually made an announcement for anybody to tell me that the rice was 45,000. I was like, is that true? Okay, that would be nice, but is it really nice? I mean, okay, maybe because of the 70-something, 80-something we hear.
Yeah.
So when I say this now it's 58, are things getting better, Samson?
Well, the idea is, Nigerians shouldn't have to, suffer this much to have their little breads or have their way in things that has to do with food. I think that's the basic thing, one should have. It is only when you have finished eating that you think of what you want to become. So you can't, nobody thinks straight when he or she is hungry. So the idea is that these are basic things the government should make sure that it's available. We are not saying, see, the idea of sharing palliative, I do not buy it. Because how many Nigerians will you give rice, gari?
They will say the most vulnerable.
Who are the most vulnerable?
That's the point.
There is a particular program that, registration, there was a register, and then the register, they chose an area like Oluyole. So are the people in Oluyole, are they truly vulnerable?
Maybe this
is an eyebrow area in Ibadan. Exactly. So it means that, there is no way, the government really do not know how to get to the people, the poor of the poorest, as they do say.
Exactly.
They said conditional cash transfer. Who are you transferring the money to? Do people who are actually poor, how many of them have bank accounts? Some of them don't even have BVN. So if you want to get across to them, you know where to go to. That's where you have to take governance at a local level serious. That's where a local government chairman should be held responsible for things that happen in his local government. But then we have been having issues as regards local government autonomy. Someone somewhere doesn't want it to work, or some people somewhere don't want it to work. So, and how do we move forward in Nigeria when governance, the closest, government to the people, which is the local government, is not truly functional? Because for me, you see in some states, it is selection, not an election. And then someone somewhere picked and said, this is going to be the local government chair. And after that is done, they begin to wonder what exactly is going on. And some local government chairman can't even do a project as high as 500,000. They have to, seek the approval of the governor, or maybe someone close to the governor.
Are the local government chairmen ready to work?
No, see, you cannot...
Because when we even talk of this autonomy, are they ready to put in the work in terms of making revenue?
I like that question. Some of them, there are some local governments which is actually happen to be the hub for revenue generation for some of these states. There are some local governments that are so rich like that. They have factories located in those areas, and taxes can be generated in those places. But then, if you take a critical look at the current situation in the country, if the local government is not working, nothing is ever going to work. The idea is that once you are close to the people, you get the message across to them. There is no federal government without the local government. There is no state government without the local government, because that is where you get your votes from. And that is why most governors would want to have a hold of the local government, because that's the structure they are talking about. So if they don't have the structure, governors do not have relevance up there. That's what they leverage on. So when they say we have the structure of this political party, they are talking about the local government. And that's how they do it. So if we get to a stage where they are still blocking local government autonomy, local government chairmen are still being unpicked, and then they cannot even do projects unless the governor says, oh, go and do it. And it is as bad as local government chairman not having one-on-one meetings with the governor. They rarely do. They actually have to lobby with someone that knows the governor to talk to the governor.
So what's the point?
There's no point. So the idea now is that the federal governments have not really enforced this local government autonomy thing. Maybe for some reason they are still thinking of, oh, we need them, and then we need the governors to hand us the structure during the next election. So it means that we have to tread carefully and maybe tread softly as regards, forcing them to embrace local government autonomy. But hey, this is a country like Nigeria that, things can change. With the snap of a finger, you realize that it has gotten from bad to worse. And then we cannot continue to have this kind of situation in the country.
Interesting. Okay, we'll still go over to the point paper today. Rep Speaker Abbas harp on inclusive democracy. Okay.
And then we'll talk about Naira redesign. Call strikes out 1 billion Naira suit against Buhari Emefiele, CBN. You'll find that story on the Point newspaper this morning.
Okay, so the same stories again. Court sentences late gospel singer's husband, Osinachi, to death by hanging. Judge orders Aisha Achimogu to appear before EFCC in court.
Yeah, that's what takes us to the Business Day newspaper this morning. And then we take the business story. Nigeria's biggest firm feels it of 77% energy cost jump. Wow, that's really a big story there. You'll find that story on Business Day newspaper this morning.
Okay, on Business Day, we also have Tinubu may sanction ministers over procurement violations. Page 36 on Business Day.
All right, the last one, investors bullish on startups as FG reforms drive stability. That's on Business Day this morning, and that takes us to the sporting story. I think that's the sporting story. Tinubu hails Remo Stars' historic NPFL title success. That story is on the Blueprint newspaper this morning. The first Southwest team to win the NPFL in 25 years.
Wow.
And of course, this is a really big one for Remo Stars. And then first private club to actually do it in years. It has been, one big of a ride for Remo Stars. At the point they finished second, finished third, and then eventually they have been able to clinch the title for the first time in the history of the football club.
Wow, congratulations to Remo Stars.
And of course,
big congratulations.
Congratulations to them. That takes us to the end of the newspaper review segment this morning. We say very big thank you for being a part of the show so far. And then don't forget, you can follow us on all our social media platforms, subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch us live. Drop your comments, be a part of the conversation. It is at Dominion Broadcast. Then you can watch us live too on our website at dominion.org.ng, at dominion.org.ng. Do well to follow, like, and then share our content on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X at Dominion Cast. We now head straight for a short break, and when we return, the show continues. Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. We'll be back after this time out. All right, welcome back from that short break. The show is still Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, your channel of choice, where inspiration meets entertainment. Of course, we have had several segments on the show this morning. We have had the newspaper review segment, and this is that segment where we bring you unbiased analysis and undiluted reportage. All right, thank you for being a part of the show so far. We now have in the studio Plato this morning, who is a public affairs analyst. With him, we'll be doing justice to the major stories on the pages of the newspaper. And then we'll start with this particular one, which was...
but let's welcome Plato first. Okay. Hello, Plato.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Plato. Good to have you today.
It's always good to be here.
Thank you. Welcome.
All right, we'll be talking about, the story I headlined our chit chat this morning. That's talking about JAMB, and so many questions that has been raised in the past few days, in the last 1 week to be precise. There has been questions about scheduling by JAMB. There has been questions about posting of JAMB students to write exams in one place or the other, and of course there have been questions about the compromise of JAMB centers. These and more people have talked about. But even at that, there has been so many questions. And then to talk about people who have actually lost their lives in the course of trying to write exams. Are there other ways that JAMB could have done it differently, and then we will not be having this conversation at this time? Plato.
Yes, definitely. First, we must understand that public office comes with a lot of responsibilities. And one of such is that as a public officer, you must understand that you have a service to others. And in your service to others, you cannot afford to overlook their interests and their welfare as well as well-being. Now, when you say that an exam, accreditation for an exam starts at 6:30 in Nigeria of today, and then I live in, say, Ondo State, I live in Owo, for instance, I have to write an exam in Akure, or I live in Owo, I have to write an exam in Akumba. It's still within the same state. Or I live in Owo, and I have to write an exam in Ilaje. Or I live in, say, Songota, and I have an exam to write in Abeokuta. And we know the state of insecurity in Nigeria. I think we are putting these children in harm's way. That's what we are doing, because if they are going to... Now, don't forget that the parents also want to cut costs. Now, the ideal thing would have been go there the day before, but then they would have to lodge in a hotel. That increases the cost. So parents are also trying to cut costs, and JAMB seem very insensitive. There is no reason, we have no reason whatsoever to say that exams start at 7:30 in present-day Nigeria and accreditation starts at 6:30.
I'm wondering
now, this so-called accreditation thing too, are we saying that accreditation cannot go, on simultaneously with exams? Students have their seats already. Now, what is the essence of the, the JAMB slip they print? There's a barcode. Exactly. The world has gone digital. All you need to do is come with your barcode. There should be a barcode scanner at the, at the entrance. You present your barcode, it scans your picture, it shows whether you are the one, and then you do your necessary validation and go in. We don't need all these old long processes that we have. And unfortunately, we also tend to be overlooking the Nigerian factor. Now, I have a friend who was still telling me yesterday that a daughter, had issues at a center, and they said they were going to reschedule, and they had to go to JAMB center yesterday. They were at JAMB center all through the day. Now, that is a waste of economic resources. That is a waste of the time she could have, spent,
invested somewhere,
doing her business and bringing in money. You see, we run things in Nigeria. That's why a lot of times you also see that government becomes unconcerned about state of traffic jam. You don't look at the time, the wasted time that could be converted to, useful, economic
something more meaningful
deeds. So these are issues. JAMB needs to sit down. We must say that we would agree that yes, JAMB has moved in leaps and bounds. I remember back in the day when we would wake up as as early as 4 a.m. to leave Yanokbaja to go and get JAMB from at Ikoyi. And when you get there, you meet over 1,000 people on the queue. And then you want to check your center, you still have to go and queue. You want to check your results, you still have to go and queue. And we have moved beyond that. Now we are talking about biometrics. Okay, we need to begin to look at how we can, even when these students want to register for JAMB, it's also another stress entirely. They go to the center, they may not get, the center. And we are forgetting that we do not have as much computer centers, CBT centers in Nigeria as we should. So we must factor all of these things in. We should not keep acting as if we are in the UK when we are in Nigeria. So some of these things have to be considered. The security of the students now, I heard cases of, some missing, kids, all because they want to write exams. Have we also considered the traumatic effect of you waking a child up as early as 4 a.m. to go and write an exam? Okay? And then the stress that child goes through, and you need to go to some of these CBT centers. The trauma or the psychological stress these children are made to undergo, okay, for the whole process of accreditation. A child who has an exam to write, I'm sure you must have lost count how many times you are trying to remember the spelling of is. And then you are telling someone, okay, please remind me how to spell is. And you say, what is? You say is now. Please spell it. That's to tell you of, the effect of stress on our brain. And you now bring it down to these kids. So we need to do so much more. We can't keep acting as if everything is normal. And it's appalling to see the registrar of JAMB trying to, run around circles and say, no, we don't have exams at 6:30, we have exams at 7:30. So between the 6:30 that you wrote and 7:30,
what happens?
Are they going to be dancing at Ilogu? So, you know that your accreditation starts at 6:30. What sense does it make in Nigeria of today to subject anyone to that harrowing experience?
Plateau, the current JAMB registrar, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, he's a professor. And some people in some quarters are saying he should know better as a professor.
I hope you also remember that this is not the first time that this is coming up. This issue of the timing is coming up. There have been issues around this before now. That see, we have kids writing exams at 6:30. I remember when my son was going to write JAMB, 2 years ago. It was the same thing, and I felt worried that why do I have to, stress myself? Why does this child have to stress himself early because he has to go and write the exam at 7:30?
Now, if we can open our phones, if you can lock your phone and just open with your face, why can't we do accreditation just by getting to the system? The system recognizes your face, says it's you, you write your exam,
you have a
and that is it. You have a barcode.
You go for meetings. I've attended conferences within and outside Nigeria where all you need to do is they give you a barcode. Even hotels, you just show your barcode. The barcode scanner scans it,
even some good luxury hotels, to restaurants now. That's how you just pay.
You just
seamless.
You pay through your barcode. So why are we making it seem like it is, rocket science?
And for an institution like JAMB.
And this is basic. It is what, one child, okay, who can encode will do easily.
Now, so there are some other issues raised. Aside from fixing exams at odd times, people have also talked about connectivity at CBT centers. There was an harrowing experience of a child I know who was writing JAMB, and then the internet just went off. The exam submitted on its own. The child could not finish the exam, and then there was no rescheduling. She failed, and she had to wait another year. This and more people are experiencing. Is JAMB really, helping the children in one way or the other, or they are stacking the odds against them? Because this is more or less like trying to prune them down. Ebi mentioned something the other time about maybe putting people writing JAMB are too much. If there should be a benchmark on the number of people that will write JAMB on a yearly basis. And I said, no, you cannot put a benchmark because you are disenfranchising some children. Why not? Is it a must that write this exam in a day? Why not split across maybe 2, 3, 4 days?
Now, you see, the thing is this. One thing I've observed is that because of the accolades that the registrar has been getting for, declaring profits every year, they seem to be placing profits above customer, because now our children have become customers. Okay, they seem to be placing profits. There is nothing stopping us from having JAMB run for a month. Okay? There's nothing stopping us from running JAMB for a month. You want to finish all your exams in 2 weeks, in 10 days. And so you squeeze the students into a lot of, into your own schedule, which becomes very tight. There is nothing Now, when a child has a system error, this is the beautiful thing. If a system shuts itself down without the time running out, you can check the back end of the system. Okay, you can check. I've run CBT exams. I've coordinated CBT exams. And we know how we do these things. So it's not rocket science. You can check the back end of the exam, because again, we must not also take away the fact that some of these students can also be cantankerous. If a child knows that maybe you already paid to one miracle center and they told him or her that if you don't get your whatever they call, the cribs, early enough, then you log out and then you see you have a system error. But you can check this thing. If I'm the one that clicked submit, it will show that I clicked submit. If it were a system error, you will know. And even if I click submit and I say that no, I did not click submit, then it is the fault is yours. It is as a result of your own negligence. You should have put necessary measures in place that will make it difficult for you to submit if you have not finished all the exams. I hope you know that if you are filling some forms and there are certain places you are meant to fill that you did not fill, it will tell you, you will see that you can't submit until
you have to go back.
Fill in all the necessary details.
There'll be some asterisks there to show you can.
So why is it difficult for us to make it compulsory, okay, to do this? And I also believe, I think I've heard that they've stopped this whole, this barbarian structure that they call negative marking. Now, why is it not even befuddling that till this moment, it is difficult for us to know what the marking structure of JAMB is?
True.
What is the marking structure of JAMB? What marks are you allotting? Why don't you have a marking scheme, which is the standard procedure in every system? So a child gets 310 and he believes, oh, I answered a lot of questions, okay, but these are the ones I missed. And then they told us there's something they call negative marking. What barbaric thing is that?
Okay, away from there this morning.
Just before we leave, I'm just curious, when you say if why can't they do JAMB? I'm just curious, for a month, won't that give room for examination malpractice?
It won't.
At this rate?
It won't. Universities run, universities that run open distance learning programs run their exams for that length of time. If you have been allocated to 29th April, it means you write your exam on 29th April. You are now the one that will put in, the exam board will be the one to put in measures to ensure that you prevent that. Have your technical persons in place. You see, like I said earlier, JAMB is putting its profit interest above the interest of these kids. Children. And we are forgetting that we're not even dealing with adults. If you traumatize them now, if you allow Nigeria to happen to them, we don't know the seed we are sowing. We are allowing Nigeria happen to these kids early enough. And so we are telling them that they should normalize the maladies
going on in the country. Plateau, let's take politics this morning. Let's talk politics. At Tinubu, APC firm grip on inherited PDP structure. And then we have riders here, grant waiver to defectors, says you are not tenants in the APC. Shetima Ganduje receive Oberwori, Okowa, others in the party. That was done yesterday. And defections, talking about defections exaggerated, won't deter coalition. That's coming from El-Rufai. The question now is, if the APC are harvesting governors in Nigeria, they are harvesting deputy governors, they are harvesting members of the House of Assembly, it is becoming a trend that every state, just like in Akwa Ibom, he openly endorsed the president saying, look, we are supporting for the next time. Delta 2 saying, we are with you. They even made it so public that there was a party, a fanfare to welcome them into the APC. But then there's someone somewhere who says, no matter how many governors you have, that still does not stop our coalition to send you out of Aso Rock in the year 2027. And that's El-Rufai. I want to ask you these questions. Does it have any blueprints that points towards the fact that even without governors, it stands a chance?
We have overplayed the place of governors in Nigeria to a large extent. But we also know that you don't have to have governors in the majority for you to win elections. At least we saw that in 2015 when Buhari came on board. APC did not have majority governors, majority of governors in the country. All you need is a man with the clout. And we saw how the Hurricane Buhari swept a lot of governors out of office, particularly in the north. and brought in a lot of persons, okay, persons who would never have thought, okay, that they would ever become governors. And that's the reality of the thing. Now, the like of El-Rufai and others who are proposing the coalition, I feel that my problem with them, not even the challenge, my problem with them is that they seem not to have gotten their asses together. Now, if you look at what is happening, with the APC harvesting here and there, we must not overlook the point that we run politics without ideology. And so it is always easier for someone to defect from one party to the other.
And whose fault is that?
Of course it is because of the self-interest of these politicians. You know that in Nigerian politics, what comes first is self-interest for the politicians. So you see, for instance, you see Wike, who had vowed never to leave the PDP, and in fact would not have minded having his tomb, okay, tomb engraved in the PDP, house. But then he's still in the PDP, but singing hallelujah songs of APC. We've seen
on the fence.
Yes, we've seen even Ayo Fayoshi. We've seen Obi, okay, saying never will he leave APGA, only for him to leave APGA and then started joining the dance troupe of the PDP
after that,
and then moved to another theater troupe of Labour Party, and will possibly move again with the crisis in Labour Party. So these are politicians. All these politicians are politicians without ideology. Even the president, okay, took his camp from AD then, okay, to form AC. And then AC.
But when you talk about ideology, I think he has been consistent. He has always been a progressive. There has never been a time he come
how progressive is the president's progressiveness? You see, the notion of progressive in politics is someone who considers it's an ideological thing. And you see, when you have persons who are not ideologues trying to steal ideologies, or trying to have a claim to fame per se, farms, let me use the street parlance, farms and ideology, that it is nothing but fraud. When people say the president is a progressive, or when I hear politicians in Nigeria say they are progressives who don't put the interests of the people at heart, progressives who feel that they should line their pockets first, progressives, who would say things and they make policies that make life difficult for people. Oh, they are not progressives. They are everything but progressive. So the president is not a progressive. He only claims to be a progressive. Okay, in every sense of it, he only claims to be a progressive. And 2027 seems to be, marking itself out. What we are seeing playing out is that 2027 will be an easy ride for the APC. With Delta, okay, overwhelmingly the campaign, because let me use Delta, because unfortunately in Nigeria, the people do not have a say. It is whatever their people, their leaders have said, the governors have said.
Samson was saying that too, that even when the leaders are saying this, the people have a say. And like,
the people do not have a say. We don't have what you call the voice of the people. It is only in Nigeria that they say Vox Populi Vox. You hear the statement, Vox Populi Vox Dei, that is, the voice of the people is the voice of God. No. In Nigeria, the voice of the leaders is the voice of God. So the people's voice, maybe the tongues are already cut out and the mouths are sealed. So now you have Delta in the APC, Rivers APC, to an extent Akwa Ibom APC. It means that Edo APC. So it means that we only have Bayelsa and Cross River left. In the south-south. In the south-south. In the southeast, you have Anambra will definitely work for APC. Okay, the usual coalition of APGA and the party at the center, so that they can still maintain their Anambra. Okay. Imo, APC. Enugu is already talking. Ebonyi, APC. So the only state out is Abia. And of course, you know that Emperor Orji Uzor Kalu is still there. So give or take, Orji Uzor Kalu will still win in senatorial district, for the APC.
If a different political party wins the gubernatorial election and then your own senatorial district, you have it. What kind of politics is that?
No, it's a normal thing. It's not out of place. It's the beauty of democracy. You see, in other climes, it is possible for you to win certain districts and you lose the governorship if you have the wrong candidate. Okay, that's why you see in the US, for instance, the presidency will be won by a party and then another party controls the parliament, because it is all about individuals. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, it is less of individuals, because many people don't even know the people they are voting for.
All right, so I'll just quickly say this before we close. With these defections or APC, you know, that is overwhelming right now, I'm thinking, do you think APC is a more put together party? Do you think they have a better structure aside PDP? Because, I mean, why are these people just moving like this? It's not a new thing anyway, defections and all.
No. I do not believe that the APC has a better structure. Let me give you an example. People do not fight at the dining table. People do not fight at the dining table. So when you get to the dining table, what you do there is you eat. Now the APC controls the dining table. And as long as the dining table is there and there's an assurance of food, you will keep your interest. It seemed like the PDP had this cohesion when it was in power. But as soon as the PDP lost power, everything crumbled like a pack of cards. So what is holding the APC at the moment is the fact that the APC controls the center. And if you understand, let me just wrap up. And if you understand the place of the president in Nigeria, the most powerful president in the world, you have a lot of appointments to make. So I will believe that even if I'm dissatisfied, I would always get something else.
All right, thank you, Plato, for joining us in the studio this morning.
Thank you so much.
It has been a wonderful session with you.
Thank you.
The show is still Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. We now head straight for a short break. And when we return, we'll link up with Boluwaji Ogunwale on the sport desk. We'll be back after this time out.
morning to you and welcome to Daybreak Sport this lovely morning. My name is Boluwaji Ogumola. It's time to take a round of the sport in just about 10 minutes on Daybreak Live this morning. Let's kickstart from the Nigerian Premier Football League where champions-elect, Remo Stars Football Club, have been receiving congratulatory messages from Nigerians home and abroad. This time around, this message is coming from the President of the Federation, where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has congratulated Remo Stars for emerging victorious in the 2024-2025 Nigerian Premier Football League season. Remo Stars won their first ever MPFL title following a hard-fought 1-0-0 victory over Niger Tornadoes on Sunday. The Sky Blues topped the standings with 68 points from 35 matches, with 3 games remaining before the end of the season. Ogumalede's side's closest challengers, as Rivers United, are currently second with 58 points from the same number of matches. For Remo Stars, they made history as the first privately owned club to win the league since year 2000 when Julius Berger last did it. Congratulations to them once again. Well, still with Remo Stars this morning, where their head coach Daniel Ogumodede says the club will fight to win even more laurels next season, after claiming their maiden MPFL title earlier on Sunday. Now, the Sky Blues finally claimed the title, coming first after emerging second twice in the league. And Ogumodede has reflected on his sojourn with the club and the title fight over the years. Let's take a minute to listen to Daniel Ogumodede speaking immediately after the victory on Sunday.
Shirt says it all, MPFL Champions 2024. Coach, the inscription on your shirt says it all, MPFL Champions 2024-2025 season. How is the feeling like at this present point in time?
It's a very important moment for me. Very important moment. I arrived this club 2015. It's my 10 years now. As 6 years as assistant and director for youth football, and 4 years as the head coach of the team. And we came second, and champion now. So I'm so elated, and most importantly, on the birthday of our influencer, president of the club, is a big motivation for. I'm happy that he's happy today. We are happy, the club is happy, the guys is happy.
Well, they listen to Daniel Ogumodede, the head coach of the victorious Remo Stars Sport Club of Ikenne in Ogun State. From Ikenne, let's head straight to Ibadan and talk about Shooting Stars, our darling team in Ibadan. The technical advisor of Shooting Stars, Binga Ogunmote, has attributed his team's loss to Abia Warriors to defensive lapses. Ogunmote admitted that his team failed to live up to expectations in the game. Adejo Ononuga, Anthony Ijeoma, and Sunday Mugo were on target for Abia Warriors in the game. Alex Ahawa scored the only goal for Shooting Stars on the day. Shooting Stars are now winless in their last 5 league matches, and following that loss, they dropped to 11th position after that particular defeat. Not a very good one, not the position Shooting Stars fans envisaged, but then it is what it is at this moment. All right, let's cross over to the camp of the Super Eagles, but not the team itself, but one of our players. His name is Cyril Dessers, yes, who made headlines at the weekend and Sunday to be precise, after emerging as Rangers International's top scorer for the 2024-2025 season. The 30-year-old Nigerian found the net in his club's 2-0 draw against St. Mirren last Saturday, bringing the season's total tally to 25 goals across all competition under his manager Barry Ferguson. Dessers succeeds club captain, that's James Tavernier, who clinched the award in the 2023-2024 season. This marks the very first time the Nigerian international has claimed the prestigious individual accolade since joining the club. While away from that this morning, let's talk about the champions of the Premier League. Newly crowned Premier League champions, Liverpool Football Club, have announced May 26 as the Trophy Parade Day. The Reds sealed the title after crushing Tottenham Hotspur 5-1 on Sunday. The results saw Ancelotti's men open up an unassailable 15-point lead over second place Arsenal with just 5 fixtures to go. Now the club has confirmed that the team will move out to celebrate the title with its fans on the 26th of May. Ancelotti joins the likes of Carlo Ancelotti, Jose Mourinho, Manuel Pellegrini, Antonio Conte, all of whom won the Premier League title on their first attempt. While away from the camp of Liverpool this morning, let's cross to Aston Villa, where on loan Aston Villa forward Marcus Rashford is expected to miss the rest of the season with a hamstring injury. The extent of the problem, which kept Rashford out of the FA Cup semi-final against Crystal Palace on Saturday, is still being assessed. It is not completely out of question that 27-year-old who is on loan from United could return before the end of the current campaign. Well, from there, let's take a bit of rumor this morning where Real Madrid manager Carlo Ancelotti, we understand, has reached an agreement to coach the Brazilian national team at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Carlo Ancelotti is widely expected to leave the La Liga champions after this current season. According to reports from transfer expert Fabrizio Romano, he already has a new job lined up for him. Well, following disappointment so far this season for the club, it appears Carlo Ancelotti is considering his option. And we understand that he's actually agreed verbally with Brazil to be their next manager. Well, might just be a very good deal for Brazil if you ask me. Well, from that story, let's cross to the Italian Serie A, where matches were played yesterday. 3 of them, to be precise, as you can see, on the tail end. Lazio and Parma played out a 2-2 draw yesterday. Verona lost at home to Cagliari, 2-0 with Verona finishing that game with 10 men. And of course, goalless it ended between Udinese and Bologna. And let's take a look at what the Serie A table looks like. Like I mentioned yesterday, we have a new leader in the Italian Serie A following the conclusion of the match day 34 yesterday. Napoli are the new leaders in the Italian Serie A. Yes, they have 74 points from 34 league matches, having won 22 games, drawn 8, and lost 4. Inter Milan are second with 71 points, and of course Atlanta with our own Ademola himself in 3rd position. Juventus occupy the 4th position, Bologna 5th, AS Roma 6th, and that's what the top 6 looks like in the Italian Serie A. From Italy, let's talk UEFA Champions League football, where Arsenal, Paris Saint-Germain, Inter Milan and FC Barcelona are the teams that made it to the semi-final stage of this season's UEFA Champions League. Arsenal will tonight host Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League semi-final first leg tie at the Emirates Stadium. And of course, it's 8 p.m. Nigerian time. And tomorrow, FC Barcelona will welcome Inter Milan to the Camp Nou at 8 p.m. as well. And all of these fixtures, indeed, promises to be very exciting as all 4 teams will be hoping to get the better of their opponent. And the most interesting thing for me is the fact that they are from different nations. English team, French team, Italian team, and a Spanish team. And that tells it like 4 powerhouses when it comes to European club football. And we'll see who eventually emerges as the champion at the end of the day. Now, a lot of people have been talking about the chances of Arsenal going into this particular one. I would love to take 1 or 2 of some of the stories that have been said about favoring Arsenal to win this one. The Champions League final will be played in Munich for the 5th time on the 31st of May 2025. Now, each of the previous 4 finals in Munich saw a first-time winner. In 1979, Nottingham Forest won it for the first time, and it was played in Munich. In 1993, played in Marseille. Yes, Marseille won it for the first time as well. In 1997, Borussia Dortmund also won it for the first time in Munich. And 2012, Chelsea also won it for the first time in Munich. And is that not pointing to Arsenal? Maybe, or maybe not. Another a conspiracy theory that we have here is that every time a pope has passed away, an English team has won the Champions League. I'll take you back to 1978, where Pope John Paul died. Nottingham Forest won the Champions League. In 2005, when Pope John Paul II died, Liverpool won the Champions League. Or when Pope Benedict died in 2022, Manchester City, another English team, won the Premier League. And Pope Francis just passed away a few days ago. And Arsenal are the only English teams left. You can put that together. Well, that's sports this lovely morning. Back to Samson and Abby.
All right, welcome back from that break, and that was Daybreak Sports on Dominion Television with Boluwaji Ogumola. Thank you for being a part of the show so far. Don't forget you can link up with us on all social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast, and then you can link up with us on all other social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X at Dominion Cast. When I head straight to the next segment of the show this morning, we'll link up with our reporters on the field to check the traffic report in the heart of Ibadan. We'll link up with Richard Ashaolu.
Traffic report at Joe this morning. I'd like to welcome on board my colleague Sheyi Fumi Akisanya to, of course, explore Joe with me.
Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Sheyi.
Good morning, Nigeria, and good morning out of the studio. How are you doing?
I'm fine, man.
Thank you.
So, what can you say concerning the traffic situation here at Ojo this morning?
Thank you, Richard. One thing I noticed about this road is we don't have the traffic regulators.
Okay.
talking of the FRSC, the Oitsman, none of them here on this road, which is very bad. And again, we don't have traffic lights on this road. I mean, Ojo is one of the strategic places in Ibadan. Without traffic lights, it is that bad.
It is.
And also, talking about the road situation, I mean, the cleanliness on this road, Ojo seems to be a bit dirty this morning. A bit dirty. There are some parts of the road which of course are neat.
Okay.
And there are some parts of the road which of course are dirty.
Yeah.
So how we also urge the cleaning agency on this road to do better, to do more.
They can do better.
They can actually do better.
We're pleading.
We are pleading. Well, this is all I can say. Talking of traffic report here at Ojo
this morning.
I am Sheifumi Akinsoya.
And I'm Richard Shalu.
Reporting for Dominion Television.
All right, welcome back from that short break. That was the traffic report from Ojo roundabout here in the city of Ibadan. And that was Richard Ashalu and Sheifumi Akinsoya giving us the traffic situation in that area. But then we have to go today. We say very big thank you for being a part of the show so far. And then we do enjoy you to join us again tomorrow for another fresh and interesting, engaging edition too tomorrow morning. I leave you with this quote with Robert Kiyosaki. Your future is created by what you do today and not tomorrow. Thank you for joining us today. Samson Balogun is my name.
Abby Dickinson, thank you so much. Join us tomorrow for another wonderful breakfast show, Daybreak Live from Dominion Television. Peace.
Someone told me at the last count, there are about 53 radio stations within the broadcast landscape alone. And I said, yes, why not? We are here to make a difference. I said something yesterday, I was told when I was very young, that in Ubi, Latin, you're